Chapter 5, Destiny. As they journeyed along the road towards Kalen, a sense of unease crept over Tristan and Rigard as the familiar as they journeyed further along the path. A strange phenomenon unfolded before them. The familiar landscape began to morph and twist in ways they couldn't comprehend. The path, once straight and predictable, now twisted and turned in unfamiliar ways, leading them into uncharted territory. Moreover, the sun, their reliable guide, seemed to dance erratically across the sky, casting shifting shadows and confusing their sense of direction. Its once steady path now wavered, adding to their disorientation. But perhaps most unsettling of all was the transformation of the trees. Where sturdy oaks had stood tall, now slender birches and vibrant maples took their place. The forest around them seemed to shift and change with each step, as if the very fabric of reality was being reshaped before their eyes. With each passing moment, the travelers felt increasingly lost and vulnerable in this strange and ever-changing landscape. Yet, they pressed on, driven by the hope of finding answers amidst the bewildering chaos. They exchanged puzzled glances, realizing that they should have reached Kalen by now, yet the landscape around them seemed to defy their expectations. Pressing onward, their confusion deepened as the road ahead morphed and changed before their eyes, casting doubt on their sense of direction. Despite their growing apprehension, they persisted, driven by the hope of reaching their destination. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the unfamiliar terrain, a startling sight emerged on the horizon. The sight of the familiar town, once lost to the whims of magic, now stood before them, its gates open as if beckoning them to enter once more. The two weary travelers exchanged puzzled glances, their minds grappling with the inexplicable reappearance of the vanished village. Despite their uncertainty, a flicker of determination sparked within them. They had faced challenges and mysteries before, and they would face this one with the same resolve. With hesitant steps, they approached the open gates, their senses alert for any sign of danger lurking within the seemingly welcoming village. As they stepped into the village, a sense of déjà vu mingled with a growing sense of disorientation. The surroundings appeared familiar yet subtly altered, as if shifting under the influence of unseen forces. The village seemed to stretch out before them, its dimensions expanded beyond their previous encounter, leaving them questioning the very fabric of reality. Amidst the bewildering scene, their eyes fell upon a figure they thought they recognized, the man who had greeted them on their previous visit, his weathered face now transformed into one of youthful vigor. His elfin features hinted at an otherworldly origin, while his long beard and flowing white robes retained an air of ancient wisdom. Despite his apparent youthfulness, there was a timeless quality to his presence, as if he existed outside the constraints of mortal time. The walking stick had transformed into a staff, its size now matching the newfound vitality of the man.
Welcome back. Please rest, we have much to talk about.
The kids who took the horses last time came up and took the horses again and brought them to a stable. Except this time they looked much older and muscular.
It is late. Over here is a place to stay for you too.
And he directed them over to a familiar in the blue sapphire, but it wasn't in this village before it was in a small town south of Kalen where Tristan and Rigard met. As they went into the inn and there was Mary waiting behind the registrar.
Mary,
exclaimed Rigard.
Yes and no. You will have everything explained tomorrow. Just rest upstairs tonight.
Mary replied.
You can actually call me Lynette.
Slightly confused, the two went upstairs to their room and decided it would be a good time to just relax and get their questions answered tomorrow. Rigard sets him armor and sword on the stand and takes a long relaxing bath where he almost falls asleep. Tristan in his room does the same. Strangely, almost as if they were mirroring each other. The two have one of the most comfortable and relaxing nights in a long time. Not sure if it was the long days and intense battles or just the sheer comfort of the room. They both think it's probably a little bit of both. The two both enter a deep sleep. Tristan and Rigard awoke in a cavern, surrounded by the enigmatic inhabitants of the village they had visited, as well as those from the mysterious town they now found themselves in. A peculiar fog swirled around the cave floor, its presence strangely comforting despite its ethereal nature. At the center of the chamber lay the crystal from the village, while the crystals they had touched previously hovered just beyond their reach. Suddenly, the two adventurers began to float in the air, their bodies rendered immobile as the crystals descended into the fog below. As they watched, the fog transformed, twisting and undulating like playful koi fish chasing one another's tails. Under Tristan, the fog turned a serene white, while beneath Rigard, it took on a dark, ominous hue. Helpless to resist, Tristan and Rigard were drawn into their respective colored mists, sinking into the depths below. To their astonishment, the solid ground gave way to a fluid substance that felt neither wet nor suffocating. They found themselves enveloped by the water, able to breathe as if in a dreamlike trance. Around Tristan's body, a school of white koi fish circled, their graceful forms coalescing into slender dragons that wound around him like living serpents. Similarly, around Rigard, a swarm of black koi fish merged into shadowy draconic forms that wrapped themselves around him. Far from feeling constricted, the dragon's embrace seemed to meld with their bodies, transforming their very essence. Dragon claws replaced their hands momentarily before reverting to their human form. As the fog and water receded, plunging the chamber into darkness, a sense of anticipation filled the air. With a final flicker of light, darkness enveloped them, leaving Tristan and Rigard in profound silence. Rigard opened his eyes and realized it was just a dream. Tristan in the room next door woke up and realized he was still in his room. The sun slowly went through the windows, letting the two know it was time to wake up and get some answers on what was going on. The two men go downstairs, and their breakfast was ready for them on a table. They both sat down to eat. Rigard let Tristan know about his bizarre dream last night. Before Rigard could finish the dream, Tristan told him he saw the same thing but from another angle. The two looked at each other more confused.
Hopefully, we will get some answers,
stated Rigard. Lynette walks up to Rigard and Tristan and says,
Eldir is waiting for you at the temple where you saw the crystal.
Rigard thanks Lynette and heads towards the temple. As they walked down the main road, it was almost deja vu, passing Wayland's and Varnsol's blacksmithing mixed in with buildings they have never seen before. When they saw the temple, it looked similar to when they first saw the crystal. But the walls were sturdier, and all sides were enclosed unlike before. As they arrived at the temple, the once old man was sitting with his back towards them, meditating.
Welcome, have a seat,
Eldir said while he turned around and still looked like someone in his 30s with his long beard flowing, and his ears are now that of an elf, long and pointed almost 3 inches to the tip.
You must have many questions. We are the protectors of Straquir, the last defense against the mortal realm from those who are beyond. You are the first two in 500 years to pass our tests. We are here to help you prepare to face the upcoming storm.
What upcoming storm?
Asked Rigard.
Unfortunately, we can only sense that there is a possible pending evil,
replied Eldir.
Once we know exactly what is going on, we will share, but whatever it is, they are working under a veil we cannot see yet.
Why don't you take care of it yourselves?
Tristan asked.
We have been tasked with protecting this crystal that we cannot leave the village. We have knowledge, but our physical capabilities are not on the same level as the crystal keepers. If we leave this town, we also risk attracting evil to our village.
What actually is going on with us?
Asked Tristan. Eldir giggles a little and smiles.
You are two sides of the same coin.
He holds up an iron.
Tristan, you are a mana beacon and bringer of light. You can draw upon great power to great feats with magic. Think of yourself as the white koi fish. Rigard, you are a mana vortex and the bringer of darkness. Just like one of you is like the day and the other one the night. You are intertwined with one another from this point on. Your thoughts can be shared with one another, and you will have a general feeling of how the other is doing. Just like the koi fish chasing each other, you two are now one, just extreme one, both ends of coin. That is what has happened to you too. Who you are? That is up to you. What you choose to use this power for will be up to you. Just to let you know, what you chose may affect how the world gets shaped.
Eldir looks around for a moment and takes a pause.
Out of the 5 possible crystal keepers, you two are unique in that you have this bond with each other.
What do you mean out of 5 crystal keepers?
Asked Tristan.
The crystals ultimately choose their owners. We can only send individuals to where the crystals are, and if the crystal feels they are worthy, it will bond with them. There are 5 crystals that were created to push back an invasion our world was facing. There is a white crystal, a black crystal, a red crystal, a green crystal, and a yellow crystal.
What do the other crystals do?
Asked Rigard.
The white crystal is mana, and the black is a mana void, as you know. The red is strength, the green is agility, and the yellow is transformation.
Eldar responded.
I can tell you more later.
Eldar stands to his feet.
Please, follow me.
He walks towards the entrance of the temple and waves for Rigard and Tristan to follow. He walks the two out of the temple, and there stands Vornsal waiting for them outside.
Rigard. Vornsal will take you with him. He will help you some, and Tristan, you can come with me, I will help you some.
Rigard walks off with Vornsal, and they head towards his blacksmith shop. As they arrive and head to the back of the shop where he tested Rigard earlier.
There are a couple things we need to work with to help you grow as a swordsman and a fighter. Once we hone your skills even further, there is a reason you were drawn to Stormweaver. You are the void, and Stormweaver can channel that void and trap magic within his blade.
Vornsal seized both a sword and an axe, deftly twirling them in a mesmerizing display of skill.
Rigard,
he began, his voice commanding attention.
You possess an innate talent that surpasses any I've witnessed in the past millennium. Yet, there is always room for refinement and growth. Allow me to impart upon you some maneuvers and techniques that will elevate your already formidable abilities.
Vornsal struck a pose.
What I am going to teach you is called Elven Sword Art, one of the rarest and most unknown combat styles. Watch closely.
Vornsal instructed, extending a wooden Kansan practice sword to Rigard.
Now try to strike me.
Rigard accepted the challenge, launching his attack towards Vornsal. With practiced precision, Vornsal swiftly parried the blow, his movements almost instinctual. With a deft twist of his wrist, he disarmed Rigard with ease, demonstrating his remarkable skill.
I would say about half the time, I would be able to block your attack, and I do feel I got lucky at that time. But when I do block, my knowledge of special maneuvers gives me an advantage to not allow you to have a second or third attack.
Vornsal starts to show Rigard what happened during the attack step by step. After hours of training, Rigard began to understand that he had much more to learn about sword battle. Tristan went back to the temple with Eldar.
Tristan, you have tons of potential both mystically and physically. I will help you strengthen your mystical powers. Being a beacon, we can enhance your potential to much more. The first part is you need to understand the power of being a beacon. Come sit next to me and close your eyes.
The two sit down with their eyes closed, and for the first time Tristan truly feels the magic grow and swell inside him like waves hitting the beach almost uncontrollably. Becoming almost overwhelming, Tristan begins to sweat, and he lets out a loud scream.
Now calm yourself and concentrate. Don't concentrate on the waves, but the rocks and air around the rocks. Understand you cannot control the waves, but you can control the reaction and the environment around the waves.
Tristan begins to meditate again, and he sees the waves coming in. By shifting his focus, the waves begin to move in slow motion. The water begins to move unfortunately around the rocks, and for a moment Tristan felt a different kind of peace and felt in total control of everything in his surroundings. It became harder and harder for Tristan to concentrate, and the flow of magic wouldn't stop, and he broke concentration once again.
Much better. We will work on this. Then you will work on acceptance and facing your past regrets.
Hours of meditation and feeling how magic was flowing around him left Tristan exhausted for the night. The two warriors stumbled exhausted back to the inn. As Tristan walked into the inn, he walked past Lynette as she gave him a smirk, knowing the difficulties the two heroes went through. Sitting in the corner was Rigard, drinking an ale and looking worn down. Tristan walks up to Rigard, and they grab each other's forearms and greeting each other. Rigard signals toward a seat for Tristan. He sits down and Lynette brings both of them their meals. Mixed vegetables with a large steak.
Tomorrow should be interesting,
stated Rigard. Tristan agreed. The two finished their meals and went up to their rooms to clean up and get ready for the next day. The sun seemed to come early this day. Rigard grabbed Soul Weaver and put his armor on and went downstairs. Tristan walked down about the same time. After a quick breakfast, they walked out of the inn, and there stood Eldar and Silas. Eldar said,
Rigard, I need you to come with me.
Silas motioned for Tristan to follow him towards the blacksmith's building. Silas regarded Tristan with a determined gaze before speaking.
I'll be focusing on honing your physical defense, Tristan. Despite your prowess in magic, mastering the art of self-defense without relying solely on it is crucial.
Tristan nodded in agreement, eager to learn.
Now, assume this stance.
Silas instructed, demonstrating a posture with slightly bent knees and a stance wider than shoulder width.
Balance is key, as is flowing like the currents of nature. Everything has its rhythm, from the wind through the trees to the flight of birds and the hidden currents beneath the water's surface.
Tristan mirrored Silas's stance, their wrists coming into contact.
Now, feel my flow.
Silas continued, guiding Tristan through a series of movements. They began with broad circles, gradually refining their motions into smaller circles, eventually forming an infinity sign. As they moved in unison, sparks of magic ignited between them, casting an ethereal glow. Hours passed in this exchange, the flow of magic intensifying with each movement. Rigard left with Eldar and headed towards the temple.
I don't do magic. Why am I here?
Questioned Rigard. Eldar smirked and replied,
The sword has and will do you well, but that is only half your power. You are also a beacon. As Tristan is a beacon of magic, you are his opposite. Where magic flows with him, with you it also flows, but in the opposite manner.
Eldar walks over to the altar.
Come over here.
Rigard moves next to Eldar.
When we are done you will be able to flow your antikai through your sword, enhancing your ability to channel this ability to negate spells, and even enchantments, making things magically inert.
Eldar after a short pause.
Sit down and relax. I want you to close your eyes to a picture of a vortex, a dark hole. Begin to investigate that vortex, feel the darkness. The emptiness gets filled within the darkness. Draw that power into you, don't let it consume you, control it.
As the vortex enveloped Rigard, he felt its dark tendrils encircle his form, lifting him above his physical body.
Control the darkness.
A voice echoed within him, urging him to master the void rather than be consumed by it. With focused determination, Rigard began to heed the advice, allowing the darkness to course through him like a river. At first, it surrounded him, but gradually he gained command over its movements, directing it from his chest to his arms, and then throughout his entire body. With each passing moment, Rigard felt himself becoming one with the darkness, accepting its presence and harnessing its power. For hours on end, he delved deeper into the depths of the void, honing his control and embracing the shadow within. As the second day drew to a close, Rigard and Tristan trudged wearily back to the inn, their bodies weary from another arduous day of training. With appetites whetted by the day's exertions, they hastily consumed their evening meal before retiring to their respective rooms, seeking respite and rejuvenation in the embrace of sleep. Within the quiet confines of their chambers, they laid their weary bodies to rest, minds buzzing with anticipation for the challenges that awaited them on the morrow. As they exited the inn in the morning, Silas and Eldar were waiting for them outside. Eldar motioned for Tristan to follow him, and Silas told Rigard to follow him. Rigard was brought to a swampy area with various sized poles, everything from poles a couple feet off the ground to poles that are about 20 feet up.
Rigard, the final portion of your training will be enhancing your reflexes. We will start with you getting to the highest pole without using your hands.
Rigard began jumping from one pole to another. Eldar brought Tristan to his study, and there was one of the townsfolk sitting in a chair. As they walked into the room, it was filled with books, tomes, and various parchments. This is the beginning of putting your magic to actual use. We are going to work with body magic first. The first spell I want you to work on is one that causes an individual to itch. Eldar begins to describe the spell and how casting it will feel. As Eldar begins casting the spell, the villager begins to itch his arm. Tristan began casting the spell. The third day drew to a close, leaving Rigard exhausted and caked in mud from the day's training. Returning to the inn, he found Tristan patiently awaiting him at their usual table. Over a simple meal, the two comrades in arms exchanged tales of their day's trials before retiring for a well-deserved rest. In the following days, weeks, and months, Rigard and Tristan delved deeper into their training, honing their newfound skills under the watchful guidance of their mentors. With each passing day, their mastery grew, their bodies becoming more attuned to the rhythms of combat and magic. After 6 months of intense dedication and discipline, their time in the village came to an end. As they bid farewell to the villagers who had become like family, Eldire's words echoed in their minds.
We have awakened your abilities. What you do now is up to you.
With a sense of purpose and determination, the two companions mounted their horses and set out on the next leg of their journey. As they rode away from the village, a sense of anticipation filled the air. Behind them, the village shimmered and vanished into the ether, a testament to the ephemeral nature of their training grounds. With the onset of the month of Catha, signaling the arrival of warmer days, Rigard and Tristan looked ahead to the challenges and adventures that awaited them on their path.